Ta-da! Now you can actually hear me. I'll get my iPad and watch this while I paint. Well, that's what we're up to today. We are painting. I've been a busy boy. I have been painting away most of the night, so into the wee hours. We've got the War Boss event coming up soon. I have been painting this guy, and what we will actually do is, I should have done this beforehand. We shall transform and flip this vertically. Hey. Do it on the fly. Sure, why not? Ta-da! Now you see things the way I see things. So, this is what we're doing for most of the night. A load of these. We have pretty much all 30 of them sorted at this stage. And for those who aren't aware, it's for the Stormboyz. So, we've all shapes and sizes, but today will be spent cracking on with these bios. So that's what we're doing. I have a unit of commandos, and then I have a couple of Stormboyz on the equivalent of they're kebab skewers, but it's basically just a means to hold them and airbrush them at the same time. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I am airbrushing. I haven't airbrushed it in years, or cracked out the old airbrush. Typically I just do all my painting by hand, but because I'm running out of time, the need of haste has prioritized my getting the airbrush up and working again. And I have to say, I did an absolute shed load of work. There's actually a few of them. Like all 30 of these are painted up, so I'm quite happy with how these have come out. Not too bad at all. It was a bit of a slog, but I don't know how I would have got these done otherwise, to be honest with you, if I didn't use the airbrush. So we've all of them done, so we might as well tip away and get the Stormboyz done. We're going to be doing priming, just base work, and cracking on that way. I am using AK Black Primer. I've nearly emptied this bottle already because I put so much into basing the into the Stormboyz bases. I know I sealed them with PVA or just white glue, so I sealed them off with like ye olde white glue or PVA or whatever you want to call it, hobby glue. So made out of clump foliage and then sealed. So if they did a, here's one I made for Battletech. So this is like a little tiny one for Battletech. Cat hairs everywhere. So this is what it is. It's basically like the clump foliage. You make like some form of armature, and it's the clump foliage that you would find in model railway shops and stuff like that. So if you get this stuff, it's actually coloured sponge, if you get me. So if you harden that up, and then once you coat it with the PVA, if you then sort of paint it, this isn't a great example, there are better ones, but if you paint it up, you can get like rec markers. So this is for the likes of Battletech. So if we have our tank here and it's destroyed in game, we thought, visually having rec markers, I'll give you a better angle there, visually having rec markers, so tank has gone on fire, and then I thought that'd be cool for bat reports. So I did a couple of them, and then I experimented a little bit with some explosions and craters and stuff. So I did, apologies if the audio's bouncing around, I'm moving around my table. So then I started messing around with like, what happens if an artillery piece hit down? So, I was trying to do explosions with artillery pieces, and then having a bit of fun with a flattened out one. So this one's kind of flattened out, but I wanted that to represent if you got an ammo explosion. So the whole idea would be to put it down and then to put the turret on top and to make it look like the tank's exploding. Boom. So that's the idea with that, is to make it look like the tank's exploding. It's got an ammo hit. So that's where this journey started. Was I started messing around making clump foliage stuff. That's what the inside of them look like. It's literally like a plastic hard base and then paper clips, which is the inside of this, and then you literally just super glue the clump foliage onto this, seal it up, and then paint it up whatever way you want. It's a technique that's been around for ages. It's just something I finally got the figure out of and built the confidence up because I actually did a few. I did smaller ones for Battletech, and then that built up the confidence to actually be like, well, hey, there's this conversion I've wanted to do for years with Stormboyz, where, you know, I build a base for them, and then, you know what I mean? They look cool. So that's coat hanger. That's not paperclip. That's a metal coat hanger. Don't know if I have a bit of one to handy. Hold on, I might do. So it's a bit of a coat hanger where you just get a pair of pliers, bend it into shape, whatever shape you want, and then just use the snips. Do not use your miniature snips. You will destroy them. Use, like, go to your hobby store, buy El Cheapo snips. And when I mean snips, I mean like this. You know what I mean? Get yourself El Cheapo snips and use them. Do not use your hobby snips. You will destroy them. They are not designed for this type of metal. And then basically that's what that is. That's like a coat hanger, a bit of milli put in the base. And most of them have like a coin glued to them as well, just to add some ballast. Some of them are still a bit front heavy, but it is what it is. And then I can always jam in more sort of ballast in here, or get some washers if they're tipping over. But this one's like one of the bigger ones, and then we have smaller ones as well. So the idea being that there's variation in height for the unit. I know cover wise that won't be great game mechanics, but I think it'll just look cool, man. That's all I'm interested in with 40k anymore. I'm not interested in like what's tactical huddling behind runes or whatever. I just want my stuff to look cool. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm tipping away with today. I'm trying a bit of thinner. I'm using thinner on any of the basing stuff that I have. So this black that I have sitting in my airbrush now, I always throw a little bit of thinner in and go from there and just mix it with a brush. Apologies. Lorcan's here. Hey, what's the crack? I'm painting and lurking mostly. I use brass rods for that sort of armature. Yeah, I bought brass rod as well. It's just, it's cheaper to use coat hangers. It was sort of that was what was at hand for me, if you get me. I got my suit dry cleaned not too long ago. Of course, the compressor kicks in. I got my suit dry cleaned for a wedding not too long ago. Hopefully that's not too bad on the audio. How's it sounding? Lorcan is saying he's still on his high from doing well in the Alpha Strike 350 games yesterday. Nice. How did you rank in the end? Lorcan came second. Compressor is quiet. It's no bother. Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. You came second. Nice one. See how well you can rank when I don't appear at events? I would have come along, but I have too much to do. I have way too much to do. I was even due to go out to our friends today and do a bit of gaming, but I just have too much painting. I have the War Boss meet is not next week, it's the week after, but I shall be flying over on Friday and then driving down on the Monday, so there may be a hobby hangout from the UK next Saturday or Sunday, or there may not be. It just depends. But Yeah, I'm doing more painting than I've ever done in a very long time, in a very short space of time. Is basically what I'm up to. My little silencers for the Stormboyz, because that's hilarious. Why wouldn't silencers on guys with giant rocket packs that are heard long before they're seen? Why wouldn't that be funny? You know what I mean? Remember, folks, it's all about the rule of cool. Is it a cool and fun concept? Yes. Well, then I'm going with it. I don't take the game seriously anymore. I mean, gameplay-wise, but I have to be honest, I'm quite enjoying doing the modeling aspect of it. Again, it's fun. It's fun doing the orcs, doing some hobby with the orcs. I think the main problem I have is that I don't do as much as I used to, because, you know, my main catalyst for doing hobby was the gameplay. You know what I mean? Gameplay would be would be a good motivator for me to get stuff done, if you get me. So I've done a bit of chopping and changing on some of these guys. So for instance, this is a Sultan Blackreach Ork Boy arm. I wanted to do a lot of variation with stuff. You cut back into the shoulder, get a bit more of an angle. This guy is angled to take into account that he'd be up high and pointing down, whereas if he was just a normal Stormboy, you know, he probably wouldn't. The aiming wouldn't be as great. So some of them I've posed to take that into account. To take into account the angles that they'll have might be a lot higher than typically. Half the unit I built when Stormboyz first came out. So we're talking like 2009. And those guys are a lot more static. They have a little bit of paint on them, but not much. As you can tell, I'm not exactly renowned for actually having units painted. Especially back in the day, I used to just play with unpainted armies and didn't really care, because my train of thought at the time was I didn't see the point in putting a lot of effort into miniatures that weren't going to last long. So, you know, the orcs, taking them off by the handful, you know what I mean? I didn't see the point in putting a lot of effort in a unit that isn't going to stick around on the board very long. Especially with the whole I go, you go mechanic in 40k, where you can have a very nice unit, and unless you hide it, you're not going to actually get to use it. It'll get shut off the board. Like the last big mega battle that we had between the bosses, like my unit of looters had to be deployed on the table, but sure, they just got shut off the board in the first one. So it's just a symptom of 40k. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a massive fan of I go, you go. It doesn't really work as a mechanic for me, if you get me. But I still enjoy doing the hobby. I'm just not as driven to do it. Mind you, this has got me to get the finger out and get the airbrush up and working again. What's the story? Solvent Abuse UK is here. What is the crack? Dread, another dread. All the dreads. We are painting Stormboyz for those who have just joined. We have got the bases all done and dusted last night. That was actually quite productive. Just cleaning the tip here. Know yourself. Keep your tip clean, lads. It's always a good tip. John Paul's here. What's the crack, John? Lorcan was saying his first game was against Neil. All out fight scenario. I killed 3 of his mechs while losing 1. Scored 1 VP. Oh, very nice. Second game was against James. Oh, okay, the one where he's the 3 objectives and on your back line. I haven't played that one yet. You got 2 on table for 3 points. Third game was against Piotr. 5 objectives, unique control, 4 of them. He was able to wear me down while I held 1. I couldn't keep the other one on my side in his grasp. Am I taking a break from Battletech? I am not taking a break from Battletech. I am absolutely crazy into Battletech. I just have a 40k event coming up. So the orcs have been pretty dominant in any hobby time that I've done as of late. But that is not next week, but the week after. But once that's done, I will be shifting my focus back to Battletech, and I will probably be smashing mechs out now that I've actually, bothered to buy another compressor and get the airbrushes up and working, and get back into the swing of things. I don't see why I can't paint up units really quick for Battletech. You know what I mean? I'm already trying to think of camouflage patterns and just what color schemes I could do that I could do really quick with the airbrush, or what techniques I could do with the airbrush to just sort of smash things out. I'm not a high-end painter. I mean, like, this is sort of, when I bother to put the effort in, this is sort of the tabletop standard that I get with my orcs. It's, you know what I mean, it's just tabletop. It's grand, like, or a bit of fun with my Gretchen. When I paint miniatures up, they look all right. You know what I mean? I'm happy enough with them. But I won't be winning any Golden Demon Paint Awards anytime soon. But I enjoy it. So yes, I have plenty of BattleTech to be on. There's going to be the Kickstarter coming out, hopefully releasing by June this year for BattleTech. So there's going to be a whole new raft of miniatures coming out. It's going to be interesting to get me hands on some of that stuff for the store. And just gameplay wise, the vehicles, it'll be cool to see people using vehicles more on the tabletop. I'm sure the plastic vehicles will do that. So things are looking good for Battletech. Things are going to chop and change. We're going to UK Games Day Expo. So you'll see us there. If you're there, we'll be tipping away at the Catalyst booth. I am a demo agent for them. I do help at events, or help run tournaments here in Ireland, or help run events in Ireland. But I've done a couple of European events. Well, I've done one so far. Went to Essen with them last year. Great bunch of guys, great crew, great crack. So if you're okay at over at the UK Games Expo, come over to the Catalyst booth and come say hello. Myself and Lorcan will be there, along with a few others. I really should be using gloves so I don't get paint on my hands, but I couldn't find the gloves and I don't have time to go buy any, so I'm just, like I said, this is all about getting paints on miniatures quickly. That's what today is all about. Today and the next few days. The panic hasn't set in. Not yet, anyway. Give it time. Give it time. So we're looking forward to Expo. Yeah, it's going to be a great crack. I'm going down to the Saturday, I think. Nice. Up the road for me. Oh, well then, drop by and say hello, man. That'll be well good crack. I've got a couple, one or two knobs that I've done. So this is an Assault on Blackreach knob. That we've given, where's the arm? It's just a knob arm, and then the backpack is off of the new Commandos. So I have a small unit of knobs. The idea is to try and get the Chinork Copta built and painted next week. I can't see it happening today. Ideally, if not, worst case scenario, I do have a backup plan if I don't get it built. My friend Sci-Fi has a couple of Chinork Copters I could borrow for the event, which I mean wouldn't be ideal. I would like to have my own, but my time management when it comes to projects like this is terrible. We've had months, and I'm just, I don't know what it is. Anytime there's something like this, I just leave it. I'll leave it way too late. But even now, even the fact that I'm trying to get stuff done the week beforehand is actually Is that yeah? It makes for a change. It's that's planning ahead in my hobby management, shall we say, management of my hobby time. But I don't know. I think I've just been sort of reluctant to sort of get into it because I mostly do just play BattleTech these days. I haven't. I don't think I've played. I've not played a game of 10th edition. I just play BattleTech mostly when I get the chance. And myself and Lorcan are due to play a game of Leviathans in the coming week, so that'll be good crack as well. I've played a few games of that, but mostly it's focused on BattleTech if I get the opportunity. You know what I mean? If I do get a chance to play. Kid is saying, hey, I see you're working on the awesome Stormboyz. I am indeed. I'm working on the Stormboyz, and I'm trying to work on my commandos. That's if I didn't super glue sand bleeding everywhere on the poor bloody things. So I've got a unit of commandos as well, like Kill Team Commandos I bought ages ago, and then I gave the I basically gave the box set away. I gave up on Kill Team. I wasn't enamored with it. I donated it to a friend's nephew who's like 18 and getting into the hobby, and he's part of a club. So I just had a bit of a clear out and got rid of all my Kill Team stuff. I wasn't using it. I wasn't liking this whole season where it's a continuously buying into type of thing. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't too enamored with the new Kill Team rules. So I just held on to the Orky terrain, and I held on to the commandos, which is really all I really wanted in that box set. But yeah, I wasn't too happy with this whole this season of Kill Team or next season of Kill Team or whatever, if you get me. I'm not into that gameplay wise. It's a bit much for me. Like, I like BattleTech because I can play BattleTech casually. I know I go to tournaments and stuff or help run tournaments or whatever, but I don't have to keep up to date with rules changes all the time, or you know what I mean. The pace of new stuff coming out is a lot easier to handle. It's a lot more casual for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be looking every week at what's the new latest thing, what's coming out news wise, what's the new latest release, which is the pace that things have gone for Games Workshop. Now, if you're into that, if you're happy with that, then fair play to you. But I'm just, you know what I mean? That's just personal preference. I don't have the time to be waiting on every comment or new release Games Workshop wise. The new Codex is coming out. I'm in half a mind of whether I want to buy it or not, because you don't really get great value in Games Workshop books the way you do with a BattleTech rulebook. You know what I mean? I don't want to be buying a book and then 2 weeks later there's an FAQ about this is broken or that's broken, or you know what I mean? They don't retain their value as good. Like, I have a lot of the old codexes. I have a lot of the old Ork codexes. I think I have all of them pretty much. And I just find that even when rules aren't relevant anymore even when the rules aren't relevant anymore, the lore and the art and stuff in those books was worth the price tag. You know what I mean? Not just the lifespan of the rule set itself, but also the art, the lore, the characters in it. You know what I mean? Like, and I just find I don't get the same value out of the newer codexes as I have done previously. Now, I'm sure there are people that do, and fair play to you, you know what I mean? But It's just, I mean, half of a mind. I don't know at the moment, is what I'm saying. We're doing our 40k event, and I don't specifically plan on then taking up and playing 40k battle reports that often. Like, I can see myself playing 40k, but it would be with very select individuals. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to play a game of 40k, it's going to be with people who I know have the same sort of mentality as me, where it's a lot more chill. I'm not into competitive or super meta builds when it comes to 40k. I sort of I like themed armies. I like, rule of cool, what looks cool. I like cool conversions. That sort of hobby aspect. That's what I want from 40k now. I don't go to 40k for the gameplay, because it just doesn't float my boat in that regard. But I go for the spectacle more than anything else. Some of the armies look really nice. I still like the orcs. I always will like the orcs. They look cool. This needle's getting a bit stiff, so I'll throw a bit of cleaner through it and go through some of the comments. But that's what it does for me. It's like, it's really cool and hobby projects. Keep saying I don't really play any tabletop games. I just build and convert on my orcs while I dream of a day when I might one day play a game. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who don't play at all, or they might be like myself where they played previous editions and then they don't bother as much. So you wouldn't be the only one, Keith. There's quite a few folk. And why is this sticking so much? Maybe the nozzle needs a little cleaning. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. Some folk just paint miniatures. Some people just like collecting them, or just like building them. I'm out of putting cleaner in when I should have put thinner, because I'm not paying attention. So that all needs to be dumped. Oh no. There are some folks who just read the books. They really like the lore, and they're not that bothered about playing the game, or they like the idea of playing the game, and it's just too much for them, like too expensive. Well, that's also understandable. It helps if I keep the miniature in frame as I'm painting them. So I get that. I get that some folk like different aspects of the hobby. That hobby pie, we all have different priorities as to what, part of the hobby. Helps if the needle is actually clamped in. Okay, you're saying you got 2 sets of them more commandos that I plan to eventually build. Look, Keith, you're in company, sure. As I was saying, some of these Stormboyz that I have here are from the original release in 2009, and I'm only now getting around to painting them. So, yeah. I wouldn't worry about being judged at the pace of a painting hobby. It's not it's not a priority around here. It's about enjoying it. Okay, saying at one time the books were much better those days. Seeing long behind us now. Well, yeah, look, it's cheaper to take pictures. It's cheaper and quicker to use photographs of armies, of studio armies, than it is to commission people to do artwork. You know what I mean? And then there's all these shenanigans about units being taken out, or units are no longer in the codex and no longer valid, and this whole phasing miniatures out. I'm not a fan of it, man. And then, you'll get people saying, well, they can't keep producing all the miniatures forever, or, they can't keep all the miniatures they've ever done in rules. And I'm like, well, other war games do it. Why is there so many units in BattleTech that you could use? You know what I mean? Why are were people able to use their miniatures that they've had since before I was born and they're still valid in the game. You know what I mean? So I'm just not liking that direction. Not being a negative Nancy, I'm just not. I don't buy into the design sort of redundancy, or I forget the terminology, but where it's designed to stop being used. This is why I didn't get into Magic the Gathering when I was younger. I didn't want to build a deck and then be told, hey, 2 years later, those cards aren't tournament legal or they're not valid anymore. I know there's different ways of formatting, but it's just a churn then, you know what I mean? And I'm not interested in building armies and painting armies and putting that much effort in it to then be told 2 or 3 or 4 years later, however many years. I know they've done it with a lot of the Age of Sigmar stuff now. They're phasing out a lot of stuff. I'm not interested in a gaming system that turns around and says, hey, those toys, you can't play with them anymore. And I mean, yeah, you can play like with your mates, but if you want to go down to the gaming store or your local hobby store, depending on what one you're in, maybe the bunch of gamers there won't let you play with them, and that does happen to people, you know what I mean? So folks who have friends who let them use old units or make their own rules for stuff are very fortunate, you know what I mean? We have to sort of think of the little guy when we're talking about intentional sort of, not redundancy, planned adolescence. Is it adolescence? No, not adolescence. Obsolescence. Jesus, I can't even think. Get man's join in. What's the crack? I just paint and convert too, says mostly Zen. You're better off, man. It's just grand. Remember, we should reject the concept of a pile of shame. There is no shame in working on your own pace and moving at different projects at different appeal more. Absolutely, Lorcan. Very valid. We all do move at our own pace, and we'll have our own priorities of what needs to be painted and what doesn't need to be painted. But after this, I really do want to get a lot of mechs painted up. I want to get those mechs that I've from the Savage Box Advent Calendar. I want to get them painted up. I want to get some paint on them. And I reckon with this airbrush up and running now, there's no excuse. You could do some interesting camouflage color schemes on them. Gone a bit heavy on this now. I think this needs to be cleaned properly or something. It's doing me nothing. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to... Oh, there isn't really much left in that, actually. I'm looking forward to get me Battletech stuff up and running, because now that I'm doing the Stormboyz and getting ready for the event, it's really sort of getting the old creative hobby juices flowing, if you get me. Getting the lighting a fire under my arse in regards to painting and hobby and creativity, which I'm quite happy with, because, when I got to go play games with my mates, it's always fun. But I need to get this nozzle cleaned out. There is a bit of downtime with using airbrushes, but I find even with the downtime for them that the pace of painting is still quicker than doing them by hand, because I don't know how I would have gotten all of those bases done last night. I got all 30 of them. Let's look at the comments. Or just doing something other than modelling and painting. This is true. I had a game yesterday against them Ultramarine Gits. Oh, Big Meg Boss, Zappa, that Gobranchia, and his Dread Mob gave that Calgar a proper crumping. Good man yourself. Glad to hear you've given a good kicking. Of course my phone wouldn't be on silent. That would be thinking ahead too much. Keith says he has a lot of them old metal Stormboyz. I think I have all iterations of Stormboyz in one way or another. So I have... Also, a quick release for your airbrush is a great idea. Lets you muck around with it without having to worry too much. I do have um, the 4 Stormboyz. I think they were in 2nd edition. So I've about 5 of them still in blister pack. I need to bring them back. They're in my mate's gaff in the UK, so I need to bring them back over with me when I'm coming back. I also have, I bought, back when these plastic Stormboyz came out, and people weren't really happy with the third edition Stormboyz anymore. I bought up, I think, a good few of them as well then, so I don't know if I have 40 of them, or I have some of those multi-part plastic and metal Stormboyz, and then I have, as you can tell, a chunk of these Stormboyz. I'm just cleaning out the airbrush with a Q-tip, just because it's acting a bit funky on me. The joys of airbrushing. And I have no idea, but it's getting stuck at a certain point. So, something's sticking. Again, the joys of airbrushing. But sure, hey, we'll chat away. What can I say? He's hoping to get some mech started tonight. A bunch of Word of Blake boys. Ooh, very nice. I actually bought, what did I buy? I bought an ink, a white ink, to try and paint up. Now, if I had it to hand, it would be great, but of course I don't. But I bought one of the, I bought a white ink to try and experiment on some of the mechs and paint up. Ah, some crap on the needle. That's why it was sticking. Yeah, if the idea of taking stuff apart and trying to figure out how it works or it doesn't work doesn't enamor you, that's not your cup of tea. I don't think airbrushing would be your salve for getting a lot of painting done then. I like figuring out how things work and taking them apart, and I wasn't planning on doing this during the stream, but there's something going on that needs to be sorted. So that's what we're doing. For thrilling viewing, we are taking apart the old airbrush and cleaning it and finding why it's sticking. And then we'll run a load of cleaner through it, and sure, Jesus will be grand. Can't go wrong then, you know. Clint's here, just got home from work. Gonna set up for a hobby time in the mech shop. Good man, Clint. We are still on Operation Stormboyz. Need to be done by the end of the week. That is what I am still trucking away at now. Really, I need a brush cleaner. I don't know. See, this is the problem. Once you move and you don't sort all your stuff out, you don't know where it goes to. So I need a little teeny weeny brush cleaner. I need a little brush cleaner to get up and clean up in here, I think is where my issues are lying. There's a nozzle. This isn't looking too bad. Has it got a load of crap in it? It might do. But we can read the comment section and talk shop with people anyway. So yeah, sticking in and around there. I need to get a really small brush cleaner. I will do that on my lunch break from work tomorrow. So we can give this airbrush a proper deep clean. And normally I take the needle off, but I didn't want to arse around too much. Yeah, see, where I need to clean is down in there. See down, so there's the trigger assembly, and then there's this part in here. So I need like a little brush cleaner or pipe cleaner. I need a little pipe cleaner to get into pretty much there. I mean, I'm using El Cheapo paintbrushes at the moment, which kind of work, but ideally you'd want to be yeah, look at that lump of paint there. Ideally you'd want to have pipe cleaners to be able to take stuff apart and clean it properly without any issues and keep it up and running. But like I say, even with the old cleaning maintenance required on the old airbrush, I still think it's a sound investment. I don't see it as a replacement to brush painting myself. I more see it as a supplement, another tool in the old toolbox. I'm going to use this one because it's strong and stabby. There we go. Happy days. All else fails, try and blow it out. That's usually how that works, right? But yeah, if you're not a fan of having to take things apart, this is a bit like it's like having a 3D printer. You know what I mean? There's a little bit more than just using it. You end up, you know, if you like taking things apart and fixing them and repairing them and figuring out how they work, you know, you'd be grand. But I think this is what I'm suffering with now is not giving it a deep clean after last night's painting marathon. For those of you who are just joining us, we are still tipping away at our Stormboyz. We managed to get the bases for them all painted up last night, so we've got 30 of them painted up like this. They're all hiding on the far end of my desk over yonder. This is where all of our behind the cups. This is where all of our Stormboy bases are hiding. And we'll just get it up and running again. If we do that, we'd be laughing. But yes, a note to people: if you're going to go to an event, don't say that you're going to make a whole new army for it beforehand. Even though it's a great idea, it's yeah, it's a bit of a stretch. And if you are going to do a whole new army, at least sort of try and manage your time a bit better than me. I don't know what it is. I always sort of leave things a bit late in the day. So that goes in there. So we've got our leaf spring thing that'll... Oh, that came out again. So we're putting an airbrush back there. We might as well show people who don't know airbrushes, I suppose. This goes behind the assembly, because the spring will push up against it. We have our trigger. You want to make sure your slot for it is... Oh, I see where it was sticking. I think it was sticking on the trigger. I must have dried a bit. We'll actually clean that bit there in a bit. But yeah, I like taking things apart. I always have as a kid. I've always liked taking things apart and figuring out how they work. You know what I mean? Or if anything broke in our house, even as a kid, it would always be given to me to fix or to glue together. Like if anything needed to be super glued, it's always like, oh, ask Dwayne. He'll get it done. You know, he'll fix it. Dwayne always has super glue, or Scar in this case. Either or. Give it to him. He'll fix it. You know what I mean? Oh, see, you might be putting in the trigger assembly wrong. It's that way and that way. No, we're grand either way. Alright, so let's reassemble our partially cleaned airbrush. So we've got that, like, I don't even know what it's called. Whatever. It's like a leaf thing. Oh, it's escaping. So, putting our leaf, we're calling it the leaf, our metal leaf there. We put our trigger in on top of that assembly over the valve. That means that the leaf thing is on the back. Because what this will do is, if I can get it done. Not used to doing this. That's what this thing's for. So this is the spring. This goes screws into the back, and it's when you're pushing against the trigger, it'll boing boing, it'll bounce. So we have to start again. Live building of live reassembling of airbrush. So riveting entertainment. Much well. So valve in the middle, leaf behind the trigger. Leaf goes there. Trigger's in the middle. Then this doofer. I'm sure there's technical terms for all of this as he drops bits on the floor. This doofer screws in the back. And this is, there's a spring in there basically. And this screws all the way in the back there. And then what this device actually is for is, so it does two things. It's the spring that the trigger bumps up against. You have to make sure it's lined up correctly as well. So it's the spring that the trigger lines up, that rests against. So as I'm tightening, you can see that the trigger is under tension now, or compression, as is the case. So now that's the spring action. Is this piece here is the spring action, and then this bit here is a clamp. So this holds the needle, this bit here. So the needle will go through, it'll go through the trigger, and it'll come out the front. And it'll go through this bit here, it holds the nozzle. So the nozzle's all about controlling the paint, because this is a double action airbrush. So you push down for air and you pull, the pulling motion controls the needle, so that's the amount of paint that you let out. I didn't think I'd be talking about airbrushes today, but hey ho, here we go. He's not sure he was going to paint a sonic boom. What color do you want to do it? So this is a clamp for holding the needle, and that's what this little locking nut is for. So once you feed your needle, once you've cleaned your needle, of course, and then you feed it through. So we'll clean the needle. Make sure you do not bend or dent the needle. It needs to be straight, otherwise you'll be getting sprays in wonky directions. I'm using Q-tips or earbuds, and I have them. I use the airbrush cleaner. I'm sure other people use other things. So basically, your needle goes in the back here. Make sure that that's loosened up. Needle goes in the back here, and we'll feed all the way through the airbrush. So it should go through. If we see there, see the tip of the needle there as it's going through the trigger assembly. Go all the way through. It'll come up through the cup now as we push in. See, so some of the internal body is still dirty, so I need to get some cleaners. That's where my trouble is my trouble is up in here, but I'll have to sort that out tomorrow. I'll try clean it up as best as I can. But the needle goes all the way through and then up to the top. And it'll come up the very top if it's seated properly. It should be seated properly. Diddly-doo. Like I said, there's a bit of toing and froing and jigging and poking with it. And it comes up the top. Ba-doo. So there we go. That's our airbrush reassembled, but in dire need of a proper clean out. And then this bit is just a guard at the back. You don't actually need this bit on. But it helps. And like I say, buy yourself a quick release like this so that you can just quick connect and run some cleaner through it now, because that's what it needs. Clint is saying he's messed so many airbrush needles. I'm not surprised, man. Larkin is saying he's got a couple of the green stuff world airbrushes recently and bought some spare needles just in case. I have 2 airbrushes. I also have this Renegade Chrome. They're both Badger airbrushes. And that one comes with another nozzle and another needle. But like, it's been years. I've not really used my airbrush much. I've not really had the space, but I have the space now to actually be cracking on with it. There we go. Things are looking relatively clean compared to the way they were. I give that an L wipe, but I need to buy. See, there's paint up and in around here, which is not what you want. So I need to get pipe cleaners, and I'll be able to give it a proper deep clean. There'll be no stopping me then, I tell you. But we'll soldier on with what we have. So put the brush cleaner away. I'm putting in black primer. And then I also hit it with a bit of the thinner from AK. No particular reason for AK. I was using Vallejo black, but the bottle that I have, I put mixing balls in years ago, and there's some sort of issue with congealing. I literally have that bottle of Vallejo black primer. Jesus, what are we talking? Probably 11, 12 years or something. I have it a long time. It's still going. It's still grand to use. So this one here, it's still grand to use with paintbrushing, but you have to remember I probably haven't stored my paints correctly. So that won't help because the hassle sometimes. Look at this. It's acting up again. I just cleaned you bollocks. See what I have to put up with. I'll dump that and try and see what the problem is. Still torment me, so this airbrush is. Still is. It's got a Badger Patriot. Oh, okay, yeah. That's what this one is. This is a Patriot 105. See you later, Keith. Sometimes it gives me hassle. Sometimes it's an absolute workhorse of an airbrush. It all depends. I think I had a clog in the nozzle, which was causing the air to come back up. So if your nozzle gets clogged, it'll cause the air to then come back up through your cup and it will bubble up. So getting that sorted is not a bad idea. Yeah, there's a bit of crap on the end of the needle. I can see it there. Let's see if I can get it off. I don't even know what it is. Probably more congealed paint. Again, I probably wouldn't be having these problems if I bothered to deep clean it last night. If you clean things properly, they don't give you a hassle. So needle's coming out through the tip. I'll run some cleaner through it and see how the form is. Getting yourself one of these is also a great idea. It's a jar that you spray into. It's a must-have. Basically helps filter all the crap out. I do have an airbrush boot. I have an extraction boot. I'm just not using it at the moment because apologies, I got some on the microphone there. I got some paint there. Jesus. My apologies for the terrible audio, folks. So there we go. We had a nozzle blockage. We're all good. Takes a while for the primer to cure, I think. I tend to appreciate or do zenithal priming as there's usually a couple of layers of paint on a model before I got it by hand, so to speak. Yeah, I could see I could understand that. Like, I'm not used to this primer, so it's a very sort of matte, chalky look, whereas I'm used to the primer being like this. If you notice the difference, it's more of a satin finish. This is a very matte finish. The Vallejo, very matte primer, whereas this is Vallejo. You can see the difference between the two. This is more sort of chalky. I could see how pre-shading would be interesting to do on mechs and such, but I'm not going to be doing it on my 40k orc stuff because I've already got the painting style down for them, and I'm not going to change halfway through. That just would be madness, if you get me. But hopefully, a bit of thinner now. And hopefully that's sorted. Brushes everywhere on this table, I tell you. Give it a mix. I just mix it in the pot. I know that you're supposed to pre-mix beforehand, but I'm just mixing the paint in the pot for our airbrush, and then going from there. So, there we go. And we're back at it. The funny thing I'm finding with priming with an airbrush is you need to make sure you come at it from all angles, because you might turn the model. You might think you have it primed, and then you turn the model from a certain angle and it's not primed from that angle because you haven't been spraying it from that angle. You know what I mean? But then the advantage is that you can get in and get under into places that you probably wouldn't have been able to with a spray can without terribly oversold. Like being able to get in and underneath them to spray them without too much overspray. So it's a useful tool. Like I said, I don't see it as a replacement of painting. You're still going to have to do some painting in my eyes. Like the style of painting that I do, I would still use brushes. And then unless you masked off everything, it's not very practical. So I could see it, for me, it will be base coating and maybe one or two effects that you can do with it. Would be what I would do with an airbrush. But otherwise, it'll still be coming in with the a paintbrush to finish it off or pick out detail. You know what I mean? Like, you could spray buckles and detail like that with it, but that would require a lot of masking, which I think is just would just be nuts. But I suppose zenithal highlighting, some zenithal highlighting, and then even coming in with your quick shades, or Jesus, what's the name of the G? Contrast. I nearly forgot the name of it. Coming in with your contrast paints and hitting it up. I could see how people could get a lot of miniatures painted up in a very short period of time. I could definitely see that. I could see how that could happen. It's probably a bit too much thinner. And if I put too much thinner in it, it becomes a hassle as well. So you need to get the balance right. Apparently it's the consistency of milk is the way to go. I've got to rinse well off to the side. go from there. Painting a big flare model can be very challenging, especially when it gets lots of extra bits bolted onto it. That's what I'm experiencing at the moment. Well, so my problem is, I know I've got a couple of Dakka jets. I just don't know whose garden shed or storage area or spare room it's being stashed in. But if I was doing a Dakka jet, I would most definitely be airbrushing it. I'd be throwing an airbrush in. Because that's what I want to do at some stage. So when I get my hands on my Dakka jet, you'll be seeing something like that. But shh, keep that to yourself now. Don't be giving the secrets away. I could definitely see how the airbrush would be super handy for big vehicles. Or even, I have a Stompa. I have a Stompa from when Stompas originally came out. I think it was like 2010. I know it was before that. Maybe it was 2008. I'm trying to think, because I remember reading the White Dwarf magazine and going to a job I had at the time. It was the first sort of proper part-time job I ever had. Like, I've always had jobs. Always done a bit of work. If it wasn't out cutting grass with my cousin as a kid, we used to do leaflets, or used to work in Croke Park on Sundays. I think I started there when I was 15. You know what I mean? So if there was work going, you know, I was always doing it. But the job at the time was my first sort of proper part-time job. I worked in a hotel, started off as a waiter and ended up as a barman or whatever. And I remember reading it on the White Dwarf going in, so that's the timestamp for me. And I think I was there from 2006 to 2009, I think, 2.5 years. So it's somewhere in that period, probably 2007, 2008. Yeah, because it would have come out in 4th edition, wasn't it? Yeah. So probably around 2007, 2006 is how long I've had that Stompa. And it's still not painted because it's a big brick of a thing. But pick 3 camouflage colours. And mask off what you want. Hell, you could even cut out your own patterns with masking tape. And you could get some pretty cool effects. Like, I already know, using the airbrush, what way I would approach it. It would be mask off the patterns, 3 pick camouflage colours that I want, mask it off and do that sort of base and a priming. I would then hit it with a wash. You could even spray a wash on it. Hit it with wash. And I'd use sponge weathering on the edges. So I'd sponge weather it. Or if you're being super swank, because you're using an airbrush, you could use chipping fluid. So you could do like, try not to wreck the place. You could do like a rust base, because of a lot of rusts. So you could do a rust base and then do the edges of it with metals. Come back in, put chipping fluid on it, do your camouflage pattern, come back and chip your chipping fluid, reactivate the corners of it, then seal that in with whatever. If you sealed it in with gloss, you probably mat it down in the end anyway. So seal that in, and then once that's sealed, you come back in and you do your weathering effects then. Like if you wanted to do pinning or anything like that. Yeah, you could have fun, man. It's a great way. March 2009, the Stompa. Boom. Blast from the past. So it came out in March, because that January was when the Stormboyz came out. And that's how long I've had some of them. Pew pew. Since March 2000. Look at that. Missed that bit there. March March 2009. Holy Jesus. I think Castellan Green is the base colour we're going for these. I was originally thinking of doing a camouflage pattern, but I'm not too sure. Awful lot of them need their silencers painted up, which is grand. So you can tell, because I spray painted them years ago, and I would have spray painted them from this angle, I didn't actually manage to get a chance to get in underneath. You can see the grey, if you get me. So it looks painted, but if you get a look at the inside of it, or the upside of it, you'll see the different grey. I'm not too bothered about overspray onto the ones that are partially painted. You know what I mean? Because I'm just redoing them. Redo them all. Because there's loads of them what need painting. I need to decide on camo colour schemes. So, I'm thinking we keep the Castellan Green areas Castellan Green, right? I come back in with the Vallejo black, just because it's got a nicer finish than this black. This is what I'm thinking. Hear me out. I come back in with black, right? And then I start masking them off with triangles. I've cut out a few triangles with the Tamiya masking tape. Yeah, like, even look at this one. This one's really bad. I mean, I glued the sticks to hold them on and still. So look, if you see how much of that is grey. That's from the original spray paint job back in 2009. It still looks kind of greenish. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. But we're redoing them. So we had 15 of them built and assembled beforehand. I'm pretty sure I had more. I'm pretty sure I had like another 10 or 15. I just don't know what I did with them. So I had to buy some replacements, so to speak. So that's what's going on here. We have some of the replacements. We have some of the originals. Tip it away. What have we got going in the comment section? Get me saying something to do with any Ork vehicle is spraying it with metallic primer. Really speeds up the process because you don't really need to paint much in terms of metallic paint on the model. It just depends on your approach. There's multiple ways that you could approach painting a big sort of Orky vehicle, you know what I mean? There's no one way to do it. I'm just thinking out loud as how I would go about doing it. So, you know, I'd want to do camouflage patterns because I'm a Blood Axe player, you know. I have a cat attacking my chair. What are you doing, cheeky cat? Putting her claws into bleeding anything, I tell you. I think it costs around 60. That's what I've been doing with my vehicle. Okay, breaking out the airbrush myself, says Lorcan. Hey! Good man yourself. Any overspill can be soot. Yeah, it could be. Depending on what way you're doing it. I need to probably buy a replacement seal because this airbrush is that old. I think is my main issue at the moment. So there's a seal on the front. You could do with a deep clean really. So the seal on the back's grand, but this seal on the front is perishing. It's cracking and going because, you know, it's been sitting in a case for fucking years. Cleaned as much as I could clean it, but definitely needs a replacement or two. But yeah, I was trying to think like what way to do the camouflage on the Stormboyz. So I'm thinking like with the airbrushing, I'm only really gonna get an opportunity to base coat one of them. So I don't know if I want to do all the Castellan green parts and then paint the rest by hand. Because even look at him. Look how grey he is underneath, because this was sprayed with a spray can. So this is one of my old miniatures from back in 2009, and I've just put the silencer on him. But you can see, because of the angle that I spray painted him from, you know what I mean, he's still kind of grey underneath. So I'll put a bit more black in there and we will get more going. We're going to go until 8 o'clock. We will be doing a War Boss episode at 9, and I don't run on thin air. I do indeed require food and sustenance to keep me going, funnily enough. So we'll go for another 20 minutes, 19 minutes, and then you can catch myself and whichever War Bosses are going to be on the live stream today. You can catch them, as well as myself, doing a bit of hobby and chatting all things Orky. I can absolutely guarantee I will be still airbrushing these Stormboyz. So if you want to catch up on any progress, it will be over on the War Bosses. Don't tell me I may have another blockage. We do indeed have another blockage. Pass it out. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying messing around with the airbrush. I think I'm just kind of surprised at the progress, man. Surprised at how much painting. Like looking at all those flight stands that I got done last night. Now, I did stay up until about 2 or 3 doing them, so, you know, I put the work in, but the amount of time it took me to do them with the airbrush, and then I was thinking to myself, well, you know, how long would that have taken with just the paintbrush, you know? And I think I'd still be doing it like this time next week. It would just take forever. Now that's something, the barrel, I'll do that with it, whatever. I'll do that with a paintbrush. But you know what I mean? It's finding the right tool for the right thing for you. Being able to manage it. We can even do the uniform. So I'm thinking about doing the uniform in like a grey. So have like the Castellan green, but having like their uniform. So like in and around here, the trousers. Having that all. Having that whole section. So in and around here where he's blacked off now. Having that in a different colour. You know what I mean? And seeing if I can get the bulk of that painted up with the airbrush, that would be class. But I don't know. I think I might just do. I'm trying to divide up like what percentage of the miniature is uniform, and the uniform color. I'm gonna go with like a grey. So what percentage of the miniature is that, and how much of them is rocket pack? So if I choose to airbrush one of them, which one makes more sense to be airbrushed? Or get more progress done for me, if you get me. Like for instance this one, I think this one would be better off getting the uniform done. Or would you even be able to mask off once you've see, this is the dilemma. It's like I want to airbrush. I want to airbrush it all now. I want to get it all done. I can get like cool camouflage patterns done really quickly. But what's the practicality behind it? You know what I mean? As I'm airbrushing stuff, what's going to be painted with which group? These boys that have some Castellan green, I'm not too worried about them. From the top side, it's mostly like their silencer and any underside that wasn't primed all those years ago. Past me was a lazy bollocks. I think is the main issue here. Give me a second. I got a window slamming that needs to be closed. Yeah, no more wind. But plenty of progress. Our lollipop stick Stormboyz. They're all just chilling on the side as they're getting painted up. I do have a styrofoam block, but there just ain't much space on this desk at the moment. It is all go. It's Stormboyz, Commandos. It is Ork Central at the moment. Like I said, once this event is over, it won't be. Another thing I'm looking forward to doing is actually the flame effect. So on the back side of these guys, when they're attached to their launch stacks, is what I'll call them. When they're connected to their launch stacks, they butt up right against them. So it makes sense to have that painted as well. So we'll have to get the oranges and the reds to sort of bleed onto the back side of them, if you get me. So start with the orange and then work our way in. So paint it as standard, and then do a little bit of object source lighting. Now, I'm trying to decide the best way to do it. I might be better off dry brushing. Same with this guy, he needs to be primed underneath. I might be better off dry brushing that instead of airbrushing. I don't know if I can get that done with my airbrush control. I'm very surprised that I managed to get the finish that I wanted on these. Like, this is really nice. So how I did this was a bit of trial and error. I did one or two for starting off and I wasn't too happy with the finish on them. But I just started to sort of try and think logically. So it's like, okay, so the smokestack started off as black. And then I did from here, fading up the whole way grey. Then from this stage I did orange all the way up, and then I did red actually, then I did orange, then I did yellow, and then at the very top as the light source I did the white. And it looks cool, man. You can sort of see it a bit more than others. I'm wanting to do it without too much overspill either, so not too much overspill like here. This is alright, it's not too bad. And then, yeah, it looks cool. I think it looks cool. I think it looked decent. And we're just using all AK paints. That's just what I have to hand, and they go through the airbrush fine. So it's literally like, oh, pardon me. It's literally just going from your grey. I actually used the surface primer grey. So going from your black to your grey, then going all the way up in the colours, and then finishing off with just a little bit, because you're using less and less. So most of what you're going to be spraying is going to be like red, then a bit less orange further up, then a bit less yellow further up, and then only a little tiny bit of white at the top, because that's supposed to be like the hottest part of the flame. And it looks like there's a load of little nuclear missiles launching on my desk, which looks hilarious. Because you have the tip of the coat hanger, you need to leave a little bit sticking out for the miniature to attach to. But it's looking good, and we're getting there. And the hobby progress is going. Yeah. So, bit of black primer, bit of thinner Give it an old mix with the brush. So I hope you're all enjoying your weekend and you're having great crack and you're all getting a bit of hobby done as well. We will eventually crack on and get back into doing our hobby hangouts more often. I've been not doing them of late because we've been doing the War Boss hangout on a Sunday. Which didn't used to be too much of a problem back in the day when we only really did one a month, but because we're now doing an episode a week, it sort of clashes. Unless I do earlier, which is what I'm doing now, because we basically do them at the same time. But yeah, I think I might move them to. I might move the hobby hangouts to Wednesdays, midweek. At least then I'm getting 2 days worth of hobby done, if you know what I mean. Four hours worth of hobby guaranteed a week. They look great, well worth the effort. Thanks, Tommy. Yeah, I'm more surprised than myself because I hadn't tried it before and I hadn't, you know what I mean? I hadn't really thought about it. It was always an effect I wanted to do. I thought about doing it years ago when I first got them, but I just didn't have the confidence for it really, because you know they're not cheap miniatures. You don't want to be ruining them, you know. There's that fear of ruining them for me anyway. I think that hesitancy sort of disappeared for me because I'm like, well, you know, they've been sitting around for so long. And then I tried it on the Battletech bits and pieces first. And I was happy with the end result. So once, you know, maybe tackle a smaller project beforehand so you get your method down. And once you've got that done, it's like, yeah, like there's no stopping you then. Like look at what we managed to get done now, like, you know, project wise. Oh, I've run out of paint. Way. I suppose that's a good complaint. Getting on the miniatures. Been getting a bit done. Assembling a squig catapult and I finished 2 of the Grok crew. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Keeping yourself busy, Tom. I'm literally this is like, I'm plowing through this black primer. There's not much left in the bottle. And I'm not used to this. I'm actually not used to using up paint and supplies. Like I buy loads of paint all the time, you know what I mean? I peruse and I go in and that looks cool, but it's very rare that I actually use up a paint pot. So that'll tell you the amount of progress I'm actually getting. I'm actually mixing this off screen in case you're like, what's going on? I'm finding that very odd as well. I'm actually getting a fair chunk of paint on some of these guys. Which is good. Because I need it. How's the arse end of this looking? I should probably paint the insides of it with a paintbrush. That way I don't get too much. Not too much overspray. So the underside of this one seems to be painted up. Mostly. Yeah, He looks alright. That's not the end of the world. That means that I only really have one left that needs the priming stage. And that's your man on his smoke here. So we need to take him off. And it is literally just a coat hanger. So I've drilled into the back of them. So this is because it's pushing back on the metal. And that's literally just like a metal coat hanger sticking out the top there. So you can see where I did have paint all the way up it. But I'm not too bothered. Like, I'm going to be pushing it back up. And it's a tight fit, which is always a good complaint when it comes to miniatures anyway. So it won't fall off easily. And we're going to be back spraying this. I did tack the other ones in with super glue. Let's see if this was the ultimate Chad move, or if it's going to go downhill for us. Man, don't tell me I didn't need to. Oh no, yeah, he's come loose. Okay, so with all these kebab skewers and stuff, I've tacked them. So I've put a little bit of super glue. I've put a little bit of super glue on them, and I've tacked them in place. So this guy's already come loose. So yeah, okay. I was lucky in when he was upside down. I got away with blue mortar there. So yeah, I'm just looking at the miniature and I'm just trying to think, like, painting wise, how much coverage am I gonna get? So I'm gonna do the uniforms in grey. I'm gonna paint them up like I did Grayson Carlisle's Marauder. So if I have that, or even not even that, it's the same pattern that I used on the knob. So if you were looking at the character challenge, try not to knock too much over. If you were looking at the character challenge we were doing, I did this knob. So I'm gonna do their uniforms like this color, and I'll do their jetpacks this kind of color. But I want to do camo patterns. So I'll cut out triangles. I'll do it in triangles, because if you look here on my cutting mat, I've got masking tape here that I've cut up into patterns, but I can get triangles and transfer them across. So I'm going to do like I want to do black, and then I want to do, maybe if I start with small black ones, small bits of black, and then larger Zandri Drust sort of triangles or irregular shapes, and then the base of it being Castellan green. That'll be the sort of pattern I'm going for. So this guy doesn't have it, but their uniforms I'll do on this sort of light grey, and then I think I'll just I don't know if I'm gonna mask off. I'm thinking out loud as I'm describing it to you, the logistics of having the mask parts of the miniature off. How much can I mask off? Which parts will need to be painted first? And I'm thinking the uniform might need to be painted first, and then we can mask off different areas and see if we can get it done quickly that way. So we might do that. We might do the uniform next. So when I'm on the Warbosses stream later on tonight, which you can catch, it will be starting at 9 o'clock. When I'm on the Warbosses stream, I'll catch you there, but we're going to end this stream for now. But eventually we're going to be looking for a uniform color pattern similar to this dude's shoulders. So if you want to envision light grey with the grey streaks, and then we'll do the Castellan green, but it'll have black triangles and that sort of Zandri Dust. So kind of like the old Kazarkin colour scheme. So we'll do black triangles and we'll do camo triangles, and then we'll just sponge weather stuff and go from there and have tons of fun, throw wash all over it, and Jesus, we won't know ourselves, lads. So there we go, folks. That's tonight wrapped up for a hobby hangout for Plastic Crack Gaming. You will be able to catch me later over on the Warbosses channel. Go check it out. Buy gloves. Don't be like me. Don't be lazy. Mind you, I have wipes that take paint off pretty well. Go get yourselves sorted. We will be doing hobby in an hour over on the Warbosses channel. So thank you for joining in. Like if you haven't liked, subscribe if you've not already subscribed to the channel. We will be doing more Battletech stuff coming up. We have not abandoned the Battletech front. Do not worry, folks. We're doing a mixed bag of both at the moment, which is quite interesting. But I'll see you all soon. Thanks for joining in, and take it easy.